Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, pals and gals, blokes and birds. My name is Sam, and this is the Sam Daily Show tonight. Yes, tonight we will be discussing the relationship between women's leadership in politics, the sad state of directionless young men, why watching figures such as Tim Pool and Matt Walsh is not really that productive, and where you can purchase your very own hammer. I should also mention that we're lucky enough to have a live studio audience for the first time ever at the studio. Yeah. Where's the...
Wait, are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, hello. That's JJ. Move on.
And several special guests here with us tonight. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys being here. This is great. Awesome. But first, if you haven't already done so, be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell if that actually does anything. And most importantly, share this with your friends and family. Now, as usually, we've got British Max to my right.
Hello, chaps.
How's America?
It is bloody marvellous, quite frankly. Enjoying it thoroughly.
We should also mention the new T-shirt, right?
I'm not
up. Stand up.
Stand up.
Give him a good view.
It's tucked in, so
This bit of buttons undone.
we got this. The buttons. Oh shoot! My
All right, keep your clothes on. Sit back down, please. Please. We're live, and this is my mother's gonna see this, and we've also got Inward Preston at his house tonight. What's up?
Hello.
What up?
Yo.
What up, dog?
You don't have to talk to me like that. I hope you know.
No, like it's off camera or on camera. We always talk like that, homie.
Seconded.
All right.
And we've also got a special appearance from our very own Transmission Repair Aaron. He repairs transmissions.
Yes. It's good to be back, everyone. I know I've been missed. I'm happy to make the return. So good to see everyone tonight. Do you want the fact?
Yeah, I do want the fact. We've got to do the fact.
So fact, we have the first car transmission as Miss America. They won. The first car transmission is Miss America. We love to celebrate car transmissions and Miss America. So thank you, live studio audience, for the chuckles.
Awesome. Finally, we have my guy Badan sitting in second chair. Welcome back to the city.
Thank you very much, sir.
What was the
Wrong song. We were going to go with Mr. Sandman, but the Dr. Fauci version.
Oh, I thought we were doing the song.
Well, now
from
we've
Drive.
spoiled it for the whole stream.
Oh gosh. Okay, so let's just get into the first topic of the night. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Bum 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 bum.
Dr. Fauci.
Okay, that's enough. Okay. Anywho, so excuse me. This past midterm, I'm sure that everybody went out and voted because voting is totally legitimate. There's nothing wrong with it. You should get out there and vote. It's such a great honor to be able to be a proud citizen of the United States of America and vote. We all know it was a nightmare. Despite the high hopes from the conservative base, Republicans did not really perform up to par. And may yet still lose both the House and the Senate. Are we still waiting on
Senate? Senate was taken by the Dems.
Yeah, they're still counting them.
They are projected to win Nevada, which means that they're going to control the Senate. Not epic.
Oh.
I don't know why the Englishman knows this, but here we are.
You're the only one who saw it. Yeah. So Dems they basically have the Senate, and then I don't know about the House, but Republicans are way in the lead in the House right now, but of course that can change on a dime. So,
but how much does that really matter? Because the Republicans in the House, they aren't
on our side anyways.
They're all rhinos,
so,
right?
Yeah.
Or not all of them, but I mean, like,
yeah,
most
of the men are, and we'll get to that. So there are several obvious implications of this: the loss of Republican influence in America. Is that there? Is there any influence in America with the Republican Party?
This room alone.
Is this it?
This is it.
I'd rather say conservative
Those four.
Than Republican influence. Because are the Republicans really conservative anymore?
That's a good question, actually.
That is a good question.
We want Christianity and we want conservatism. Republicans provide neither.
We're going to have to put this on the board, but sidebar, what do you think? Are Republicans even conservatives?
That's not a sidebar. That's not a board sidebar.
That's just correct.
Okay. We're playing. I should mention is that we're playing a game on the sidebars, and it's
Between Sam, myself, and Max, we're seeing who can start the most side. Well,
no, that's
just whoever does start the most sidebars. So, but Dan, go ahead.
Interesting setup for me. Thank you very much. I would say that no, by and large, the Republican Party is no longer very conservative. As if the cliche goes, the Republican and Democratic parties are just two sides of the same coin.
back to you, Max.
Very true. I mean, I've just said this, but back to you, Sam.
Anywho.
I think, okay, I'll actually provide commentary. I think you're right. You know, a lot of people have been referring to it as the uniparty recently. And I think, honestly, I think there's truth to that, but we do have to recognize, especially from our Republican mommies, we do have to recognize that there is support from some of the red, of course it wasn't a red wave, we'll call it the red droplet, but we do have that support, and we don't want to get too black-pilled, right? We don't want to give up, and I think we were going to elaborate on that further. So,
well, if I may, I think the last support we still have for the Republican Party is the last remaining energy from the Trump era. And pretty much we have all kinds of politicians and talking heads that were riding that wave, who were grifting that wave. And now that the Republican Party has pretty much pushed Trump to the side, there is still that energy left. But I don't really believe that there is much energy behind the Republican Party outside of Trump.
Do you think that the lack of red wave was to do with the lack of Trump's presence? Because I think that Trump's been pushed to the back by the Republican Party over the last kind of few years in an attempt to disassociate themselves from the evil criminal that he is.
For sure. Well, there were several cases of the Trump-backed politicians doing very poorly. Also, several cases of the party itself, the Republican Party, going against itself and using campaign funds to attack itself. So the Republican Party is never going to succeed as it currently is because there is so much infighting in the party. There is something that the liberals and the Democrats have that we have never had, which is they will say no matter what, like, vote blue no matter who, right? And that's a certain cohesion that the Republican Party doesn't have, one in terms of practicality, because there isn't enough like cohesion of thought, where every single member essentially of the Democratic Party in that wing of politics is all moving in the same direction. We are very fragmented. So we're not really going to have that, we are very specific and we're very stuck to our morals and our principles. That party is 100% the party of essentially group consensus and societal consensus, which is what they are right now.
Very true.
So I know you look like you want to say something, Owen, but I wanted to touch on that. I think the reason why Republicans are all like spread out and everything, and why Democrats can so easily unite behind each other, is because we deal in, firstly, we deal in reality, right? And we deal in the realm of morals. So with reality and morals, we can't find cohesion because we argue about real things that have substance. So we have real conversations, but then we nitpick all the little things, and that's what creates all this stuff, right? With the Democrats, they neither annihilate reality nor morals, as we've seen, especially recently, right? Especially moralistically, recently we've seen how much they've fallen apart. So they can get behind each other because they aren't considering in the back, there isn't anything in the back or in the forefront of their head saying, I don't agree with this morals, or I don't like this policy. For them, it's just vote blue, like you said, vote blue no matter who. Which I really wish I couldn't even get behind vote red no matter who, right? Because that's not the point. You want to vote for who you think is the good candidate, regardless of color or whatever it may be. But it does provide a very forceful voter base.
I think it's because we're digressing. We're going back to like this primitive state of like tribalistic mentality where it's not based in morality, and there's no common ground that you can find with other people too. Right. Not other people, I would say people who are disagreeing with you. It's not that they're disagreeing with you on a surface level. This is something so deep, it is in morality.
And we have identified too much with it. We've identified too much as Republicans and not as...
Yeah, we've become ego invested into the titles we give ourselves, which is our teams, which is why you see so many people, like, they're excited to see their team win. It's just like football. right? People want to see it's like, oh, the Democrats are going to win the House, they're going to win the Senate, they're going to win the presidency. It's literally just like, this is my team, I'm going to root for them no matter what.
Right.
Republicans, on the other sense, a big reason, like you said, that we're not going to just vote red no matter who is because we have our morals and we have our groundings where we're going to say, if this is a Republican candidate, I'm not going to vote for them if they don't like. I don't agree with them on these issues. Like if a Republican candidate is very soft on the pro-life question, it's like I'm not going to support them, right? But we can see that the Democratic Party, no matter which direction the figureheads actually shift, for example, Hillary Clinton, Obama, all of those people were for the religious definition of marriage as late as 2008. All of a sudden, the party narrative shifts. The entire party moves with them. So they really have no moral grounding other than what the figureheads in the party represents. Because frankly, these people aren't Christian, so they have no grounding rock of morality to go off of.
If I think we might have a comment from the crowd.
Yeah, let's bring in the peanut gallery.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with I completely agree with Transylvania Repair Aaron. That I mean, if you are grounded in morality, that's inherently exclusive. You are grounded in morality, and you can't really, open that up for interpretation. But I actually had a question for Badan. You were talking about people sort of in the Republican Party shoving Trump to the side and then attempting to ride his coattails, so to speak. I wonder, do you think it's even reasonable anymore to conflate the Republican Party with the Trump Party or the Conservative Party, or would it be more accurate to acknowledge separate parties within the Republican?
Well, yeah, there's obviously separate factions within the Republican Party. Of course, with the two-party system, we have the uniparty, as you put it, and many others do. I mean, there is really no grounding for a third-party option to be it won't work whatsoever. We see that like independents get like 2-3% of the vote, if at best, right? So that's why there is still going to be this battle for who gets to control the Republican Party. And of course, we have the good boy establishment of the Republican Party, who is buddy-buddy with the Democratic establishment. And I mean, these people are friends behind the scenes, of course. And then we also have the kind of organic nationalist Trump movement that got pushed out of the way because at the end of the day, I've heard this said before, is that Republican candidates like nothing more than to lose, because they know they're going against an establishment that they can't actually fight against. But in the losing position, they can just sit back and do nothing and say, oh, when we're going to get in power, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They love to lose. It is their favorite thing. And of course, Trump upsets that one by creating a grassroots movement that can actually win and did actually win, but it upsets the good old boy order where the Republican Party has to actually put up a fight, which they simply don't want to do.
It's the quintessential cope.
Seriously.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
So, I think the one thing that came to mind whenever you brought up morality is that a quote, and I'm going to butcher it. I'm absolutely going to butcher it, but we've heard the first part of the quote, but I've never actually heard the following parts. And the quote is this, is that culture is, politics is downstream from culture. Yep. Now, somebody had mentioned it to me, is that culture is actually downhill from morality, and then morality is downhill from either the adherence to the Word of God or
adherence to social norms.
No. It's either the adherence to the Word of God or I can't think of the word. It was with Josh.
Or the rejection.
Religion, perhaps.
It'd be the rejection. Yeah. And so I think that's what it is that at its root. And we discussed it just briefly with the idea of conservatism and Christianity and how they are linked. And
if I may jump in here, I think there are two main forces that regulate an individual's behavior. You have the culture and then you have the government, right? You have the state, which would of course be what is and what is not designated as moral by the state, by what is and what is not legal, right? Tax evasion is illegal, right? Now that is what the government decides is morality. And then you have the culture, which would be your families, your community, and of course your church, right? Obviously, the Christian morality is not going to 100% align with whatever morality that a government institutes. But what we'll see is as the cultural structure kind of decays and disappears, as our communities disappear, as our families disappear, that structure of morality, right, which is just what is and what is not legal from the government, takes over. So that's really a big problem, again, not to segue, but with libertarians is they don't understand, like, you can't just remove the moral structure from our society by taking away the government, because there's nothing there to replace it, because our families and our culture and our churches are weak, right? So you can't just create a void of what is and what is not moral by getting rid of the government, right? So we run into this issue again when you're talking about all of these things in Christian morality and all of that is if we don't have that, then there's nowhere to go, and that is something that as that decays, the government's going to fill that void regardless. So, which is again segueing, but why libertarianism and that section of our conservative movement is kind of missing the goal there.
Well, did you have something to say?
I mean, libertarians will never admit this, but it's not a coincidence that the power of the government and the power of the church, I mean, throughout history, are inversely proportional. I mean, it looks like an X on a graph.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
I've never investigated that.
Say that again?
I was just saying I've never investigated that. That's interesting to hear.
Oh, I mean, we know that government power has grown over the past 100 years, and we know that the power of the church has fallen over the 100 years. Last 100 years. I don't think that that's a coincidence, because that power has to lie somewhere. There has to be some institutional power. I mean, it's the common libertarian cope that they will be able to govern themselves, but there has to be some institutional power there. Mm-hmm. It's not coincidental that one institution replaced the other.
Well, and I would give libertarians credit in pointing out that every time the government steps in and does something, we kind of lose that in an organic sense. As soon as we have the welfare state come in and we have more taxes being taken from us to fund that, our charities kind of disappear. And obviously we still have charities, but I think the raw rooted sense of we have community-based charity where if someone is in need, they go through the church and they're taken care of that way, when instead you have, money's taken directly out of your check money. You don't see because it's taken immediately, and then it goes to some family on the other side of the country who you don't know. The problem is you don't actually get any of the positive, benefits from the charity where, I'm actually helping somebody I know, someone in my community. You don't know where that money's going. So in reality, it doesn't feel very real. And that's, again, something that libertarians will point out is, yes, every time the government steps in, they take away that very real cultural institution. But the problem is that you can't just assume we're going to get it back by removing that government power.
Well, and it also doesn't help with the media that comes in, and then they're really messing with the perception of people. So, this idea of what was the number that we heard over and over and over? It was like 250-something thousand people who had died of COVID, right?
I think it was even more than that.
300,000. I don't know what the number is, but they would present this number as though, and I may be going off in a wrong direction. Reel me back in, Dan, if I go this far.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure where you're going with this, frankly.
What?
Okay.
I'm saying not only the government plays a role in this, but also the media, in that they present all of these large numbers, and they're shedding light on national and international news when it's like. And then you speak to people in your community, and then all they want to do is talk about this national. And I also know that this is a show here, and we are talking about national, but I hoped that we could dive in a little bit deeper into what we're doing in our communities. But what I'm saying, though, is that the media is shifting the perspective from how is your neighbor doing to how is Canada or Mexico or Ukraine.
The media and obviously the entire left wing of our politics can really they only can focus on one single variable at a time. So they will look at, again, the number of deaths from a certain disease, but they won't look at excess deaths overall year to year, which we'll now see that in 2022, that we have higher excess deaths despite having lower case amounts, right? So that's one of those things where they don't really look at the variable in the big picture, because they will look at the one variable, which is, more people are getting the sickness and they're going to die from it, but they don't think of excess deaths because of drug overdoses and depression and undiagnosed cancer, So every single issue you look at, they're going to be focusing on one single issue out of context, one single variable of that issue, and they're not going to be putting it in the big picture, which is why you'll talk to these people and they just simply don't get it.
Well, even the unemployment number, every time the unemployment goes down 1%, it's something like 60,000 people die.
Yeah.
That's real. And I'm pulling that a little bit out of my ass. I know that there's a number. There's a number.
You mean when unemployment goes up one?
Unemployment goes up.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
If that was the case, then.
Right.
We would want a socialist. Yeah, we'd want a socialist. And everybody doesn't work. Like AOC says, is that we just don't work and we get paid. Right. That's the beauty of JJ. We haven't even mentioned our special guest. You want to introduce
We've
yourself?
mentioned a lot of special guests.
Yeah, I know, but he looked at me and he smiled and his glasses and
I actually mentioned him at the start. I said, "Hey, this is JJ."
Here, let's get it 3 seconds from JJ and let's get it back on track, Sam.
Yeah.
Hello.
Lovely.
So
awesome.
So this is I feel like we're kind of preaching to the choir here. Everyone knows, they don't really listen to. Everyone knows Democrats. They never take the big picture. Liberals, they never take the big picture. We've kind of covered things that I think everyone generally already knows. But I know we were discussing this earlier today, both with Max and Badan. You guys were mentioning. I guess a good segue would be, obviously, we recognize all these problems. Starting off. Taking all of these things into account, what do we do now, right? The red wave failed us, which I'm honestly not entirely surprised. I don't think many of us are. So how do we make? I would phrase it as, how do we make our own red wave, not relying?
Okay, so what I would say is that the first thing we do is just acknowledge what worked, what is working. And so what I found is that in this last race,
Republican mommies, exceptionally. Republican mommies, they worked.
The Republican, and this happened, I swear, it happened like 5 years ago. It wasn't even something this is something new where, and I'm trying to think of the first person who really stepped out in the forefront.
You're going off track, Sam.
No, I'm talking about the female Republicans, right? The candidates who are running, who are these, and they're bombastic. I mean, the one that comes to mind for me is Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is something that works. This is something that works. Is that this is not just something that works, but this is somebody who actually comes out and makes these statements and then puts them on a board and throws them in the White House.
And that's great because, like, MTG, I'm going to name drop here a little bit.
You're making
MTG,
Badan very uncomfortable every time you say
I'm not. I'll stop it. I'm being ironic with the whole Republican mommies thing, but realistically, right,
it gets less ironic every time you say it, bud.
But I'm serious. What I think what we're trying to say here is that we have all of these women, right, who are doing.
Can you say mothers? Just say mothers when you say it.
Because some of them aren't mothers.
I think that they're all mothers.
I don't know. Either way, point is, men don't like to listen to women. That's true. That's not sexist. That's just true. Men don't like to listen to women. So if we can if all these women are getting all these followers and getting all these people, we have to have men who are doing the same thing, because men are going to follow men. They aren't going to follow women. Exceptionally conservative men are not going to follow women.
Back to you, Badan.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. So we lost the Cold War, frankly. So we thought, what happened was they changed shape, right? They shape-shifted on us, and instead of fighting us via proxy wars in Vietnam and Korea, all of that, they just entered and took over our institutions, right? So if the question is, what do we do, right? Let's just study the enemy and see what worked for them. They entered every single institution very slowly, and they had the slow march through the institutions, as it referred to. They took over every single college and university. They took over essentially every single important piece of infrastructure we have. And now we're in a position where we have a lot of grassroots movements. Like, we have a lot of young, intelligent people on our side, but we have no institutional power. This is like the first time in history where one single party has been backed by the news media, by the movie industry, by the military, by essentially every single big corporation, by the universities. Who do we have as an ally? Frankly. So if we're starting from the beginning here, right, I think that's where we should start the conversation, right? Here's where we are. We have all this potential and all this intelligence and all this youth, but we have no institutional power. Now what?
And so what I'm saying is that we look to where it's working. Who is working? Is a better way to put it. Is that I think it's the mothers. And I'm not even. What's that face?
I didn't think that was going to go in that direction.
I know. You want
the Republican mommies?
No,
Republican mommies?
not the. No, I'm
Mommy?
saying the.
No, sorry.
I'm not.
I petitioned very hard.
Look, I'm not.
Sorry,
I'm talking. I'm
part of the expo.
Look, I'm talking like Marjorie. I'm talking about the senators that are Carrie Lake, but I'm also talking about the mothers here locally. Like, I don't know about who in here in this room has gone to the local public school meetings or any of the health board meetings during the whole pandemic or any of those, but the one outstanding voice that I heard louder than any other was the mothers. And I can say that like with 100% certainty that that over the course of the past 2.5 years, that the people who have made their voices the loudest are these suburban moms. I mean, and now I know I may be speaking in a bubble right here, right? Because the circles that I'm a part of are more suburbia.
No, you're correct.
I think that also in the city is that mothers are speaking up.
Being, you might be able to touch on this too, Griffin, but definitely even up in Iowa, around those places at the school board meetings. I went to a school board meeting where we were talking about the mask mandate, and you're right, Sam. It was a lot of mothers there talking, and they were very.
And I don't think here's the thing is I don't think that it's like identity politics or anything like that.
No.
I'm just like, where can we start? And like,
a good question. Where are the fathers?
Where are the men in the institutions? Like you said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Green Taylor, get that the wrong way around. But come to you in a second. But these where are the men leading us? Where are the strong conservative men? We've got Mike Pence. My point.
Dan Crenshaw.
Dan Crenshaw.
I've never heard someone say
Lemmy.
Mike Pence.
We've got
sentence.
Ben Shapiro. Despite Ben Shapiro's recent addition with the lovely beard that he's given himself,
He has a beard. I
he's
never
got
saw
a beard.
that.
He's now
Okay, let's
No,
not
he's gotten rid of
jump.
it.
pinnacle of
He's-
masculinity.
I'm looking.
It's gone now.
Okay.
It's gone.
I'm finding Ben Shapiro's beard.
Okay. So, Preston, do some research on that, whether or not Ben Shapiro has
But-
beard. But I think what you're saying is that it sheds light. I think that the number of women who are stepping up, I think, opens up this other question as to where are not just the men, but where are also the young men, and what are the young men doing? What are these? You know, I mentioned Dan. What is it? Dan Crenshaw, the guy with the. Yeah, the eye. Yeah.
That's Crenshaw.
And when we were, I don't even want to talk about that. I'm kind of worried about stepping into that circle and saying what team he plays for. But where are the men? So I would swing it over to Badan, and thank you for opening up and walking down this trail with us. But do you see where we're going with this?
So, femininity cannot exist without masculinity. Femininity is a flower, right? And it needs to be in a protective garden or a rabbit will eat it, right? So what we see historically speaking is that women only become masculine when the men are not around. Rosie the Riveter is a perfect example. All the men go off to fight World War II. All of a sudden, the women need to go work in the factories, and then you have all the imageries of the women, with the biceps and all of that.
That was necessary, though.
Yes, of course. But and again, it's fantastic that American women were able to step in and do that. But point being is the reason I think that we see so many women needing to step up and take kind of that leadership protective role that they need to in this conservative movement is because, as we were saying, the men are completely absent. And I believe that was a point of the show we wanted to make is where are men failing and how do we fix that, right? And what do we do as the next generation of young men coming up to kind of fill this very big gap that's been left generationally speaking, where there are no men to protect those coming after them, right? Every single drag kid right? Every single trans kid
Where's the dad?
has a dad that isn't doing what his job is. Every single girl with daddy issues has a dad that failed her, right? So again, we like to point to the actual person, right? And it can be very difficult to separate what the person is dealing with from the person itself. So we might hold some contempt for them, right? Which is not a good thing. We definitely need to have compassion for them, because at the end of the day, the reason that so many people are the way that they are, right, and are so deep in their mental illnesses and, of course, their political inclinations that come from that is they had no masculine leadership to be there to protect them. That's very simply the case.
I mean, I see that. Sorry, I see that it's the media and the culture as well. I mean, we discussed earlier amongst ourselves and kind of where our movement is headed. And Owen, you said that it's actually great that every movement in history has started with young men sat in a room deciding where they want to go. But I had the realization that someone like Lenin, he came and he created this great revolution. If Lenin was, born in 2001, he wouldn't have done that. He would have sat indoors with his friends for 5 years, and they would have played Among Us, and he wouldn't have killed millions of people.
I should mention the British
wires a
So-
lot here, sir.
So back to the issue. I think that sure you've got the issue from kind of World War II where men have been without father figures, strong masculine figures, for their childhoods, and that has created a more effeminate culture. But you also need to look at the media that people are consuming today, and the quantity of media that they're consuming as well.
Well, I want actually, yes, go ahead. You're probably going to say what I'm thinking, so go ahead.
I kind of doubt it, but I mean, to what Max said, the answer to the question, where are the men, we're right here. Like, this is what we got. This is,
all 7 of us. This is all the left.
Pretty much. This is the team. The people
Ladies,
in this chair, the people in this
I'm
room,
taken,
the people in the audience.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh wait, 1, 2, 3.
No.
There's 5.
He's working on his counting, folks.
I think it's really easy. To identify where the men are, who the men are. There, anybody that we can positively identify as our guy. I think the real question is, one, how do we make more people? I mean, we know how we make more people. But, I mean, how do we convert more people to become our guy? And then once we have, enough people, what do we do? Where do we go? I mean, we recently saw a lot of people who previously had direction lose direction, specifically in light of this election. I think it's taken the wind out of a lot of people's sails. And the most important thing we can do now is find set a new course and get that wind back in our sails.
Okay, so one thing I'm going to be honest, is that I didn't really pay great attention to this election recently. I didn't, I've actually gone on a bender for about 2 or 3 weeks, but something that you said is that like, go ahead and say it again. It was, what direction are we going in? Like the sails, the we need wind in our
we've
sails.
taken the wind out of our sails. We need to plot a new course with the wind at our back, I guess.
I mean, men have stopped participating in society. They've stopped serving their community. We discussed this the other day. And I think that's fundamentally the root of the issue. Men aren't out there. Men need to be out there.
So one of the, I think JJ, you might be able to comment pretty insightfully on this. I trust your judgment in this.
Can I roll into you after this real quick? So this is kind of like a personal story here, is that it was my father and I do not see the same as far as politics go. And he, after this election here with this guy, is that he looked at me and he said to me, "What are you going to do now that your guy lost?" First of all, I don't think he lost, but that's when I.
Whoa! Hey, whoa!
Okay,
we're not making any claims here.
We're not making any claims. I just. I think that he's always been a winner, and Trump's he's a winner. But one thing that I remember looking at him and saying after it hit hard, after your guy lost, what are you gonna do now? And I love my dad. Let's just throw that out there. Everybody should love their father, okay? And I looked at him and like there's 2 things on my head. 3 things. Is one thing I said. I wanted to stop working a job where I'm getting paid hourly. I wanted to start my own business. The second thing was that I wanted to pursue a relationship, a marriage, right? I wanted to actually start to live as a man that would, that the woman that I met would be a reflection of who I am in my relationship with Christ. And then number 3 is become more a part of not only brotherhood, but also a part of the church. And so those are the 3 things that I remember, it was, and it was silly too. It was silly. I don't know where you guys were the night, January 20th, right? And the inauguration. Do you remember that day as if it was a sad and somber day, or do you remember that as
literally in tears?
Well, I was looking at everybody except for you, because you were probably at Euclid.
So was Owen, but
I went to bed. I went to sleep.
Yeah.
JJ.
Yeah. But where were you? And then go on and tell us what is happening.
I think Max put it best, literally in tears.
In Jajirs.
It may be the case that people watching this get what you're saying when you.
Everyone knows who JJ is.
Yeah, maybe.
Everyone.
We love
You should.
But to get to more of a serious note of the question of where does one go in a situation of hopelessness. Obviously, the first answer I would give is the Bible. You need to pray.
Of course.
You need to pray on these things. You need to ask for the direction. Where do you want me to go? That said, if you have your calling, you need to follow that calling from Him. And I would encourage you to seek out people that are good community leaders, just leaders of projects that are useful to things that are meaningful. So, for example, we've got people like Sam, we've got people like Badan, we've got people like Doyle, whoever you may find as good leadership. These are people who are putting themselves out there to try to make something happen. They have a following. So one of the examples that I might give that a community might be able to get more involved in is one that's recently come across my, interests is over the past year, the groups that me and Sam and Badan have been involved in have been asking ourselves, what do we do? Like, what is something meaningful that we can do moving forward? Something that has been pitched that nobody has really, everyone's interested in, but no one has really picked up traction on is the idea of, something like a business incubator or investment group or something like that. We look at ourselves and we see we've got the men, we've got the talent, but we don't have the resources. So something like that project is a very good way for us to be able to generate those resources we need, such that we could perhaps make our own march on these institutions. If we've got people with the drive but not the cash, and we can fund them, then we've got people that we can put into these establishments to get something more going on. And just to finish that up, I would encourage you to get involved with your local church, get involved with a men's group. That's a really good opportunity for you to have a more intimate setting to speak with people one-on-one that have strong either basically align with your interests, especially religiously. Build connections. Networking is very, very important, especially in this day and age. And you'd be surprised at what might come of that.
Another thing I wanted to add to that, because I feel like I can probably speak to agnostics. I don't know what goes through atheist heads, but agnostics, especially recently converted Christian here. So if none of that resonated with you about Christianity, which it should, and I know you don't like people to preach to you, it's a little arrogant. I'll have to admit, I do it to myself how arrogant I was, ignoring when people were telling me all you have to do is go to church, dude. It's that simple, right? Anyways, speaking to the agnostics, if any of you are listening, even though you may not believe in what we believe, and that is that we are being guided by God, we will be, no matter what happens, it's what's supposed to happen because God is guiding us through all of this, right? I think we all agree on that. I think probably everyone in this room, I don't know. Actually, I guess I don't know about you, Preston, but either way, even if you're agnostic, right? Just because you don't believe in it, all the rest of us do. So find someone who does, or find someone who's ready and has that fire burning. I'm not speaking strictly in religious terms here, but has the fire burning to start some new projects, start a small conservative activist group or anything. Go and find them. Or if you think you're a strong enough leader, start your own and begin those things. And just know, and I think I've noticed this, and I'd like to get your guys' comments on this too, because this might be an arrogant assumption, but I'm noticing there's a lot of very small things happening in the conservative movements all over, but we're all on the same team, right? Because we talked about how broken off we are and how separated we are. I'm noticing all in the same little niche, I'd say, that we're all in here together. There's things starting, and exceptionally starting, in Christian circles rather than agnostic circles. So I think we're at a turning point, and I genuinely believe, and I'm not trying to preach here, I genuinely believe that God is starting a very large, he's pushed a pebble or pushed a snowball on the top of the hill, and we're just going to start going and going and going and going, but only if everyone is on board with this. So even outside of the realm of religion, I know I've talked a lot about God in this short little spat here, but outside of the realm of religion, there's a lot of momentum or a lot of potential energy we have right now, and I think the snowball has just started.
Well, one thing that you said is that if looking for somebody who is influential, and here's the thing is that what I think you're going to start to see here is that you find people who aren't telling you the truth, and it is going to be, without a doubt, a Christian. Because those who will tell the truth are going to feel
Well,
and
you
be
need
persecuted.
to be careful with that. You need to be careful with that.
I understand, like Andrew Tate and all of that.
No,
that
I'm not
goes on.
talking about Andrew Tate specifically. There's lots of Christian influencers who started what they.
By the way, I should mention
maybe
I
not-
don't believe.
maybe not-
anything Andrew Tate is.
No.
I'm not endorsing it.
No, not influencers, but there's throughout history. There's plenty of Christianity that has used that. Go with your gut. It's very simple. But don't just like find a Christian and put all your trust in them, because there's also plenty of Christians who don't follow the book, right? They might still be Christian, but they aren't powerful leaders, or they're leaders.
No, what I'm basically saying is if there's somebody that comes out and they are saying that men are men and women are women, and then they end up getting fired from their job.
Hire them. Hire them.
Sure. Hire them. But what I'm saying is that you're going to see a lot of people who are Christians. How do I say this? There's this idea that it's white people.
No, that's
No,
true.
listen. Hear me out.
Okay,
It's this. There's this idea kind of brewing amidst, in the dark corners of the internet, that it's that there's this cabal against white people. That's not the case. That's not the case. Is that there is a real cabal that is against Christians. And it's biblical. It's entirely biblical. Is that it doesn't matter whether you're white, black, Hispanic. If you come out and you say that Jesus is king, I mean, like a great example of this was recently whenever Candace Owens and Kanye West came out with their new clothing line. What was it called? It was a.
I don't know. I don't like.
Well, I don't want to
West.
say it. I was hoping that somebody else would say it. But they came out and they had the shirts that said "White Lives Matter."
Oh, you didn't want to get canceled. You wanted one of us.
Yes, I wanted somebody else to get canceled.
Preston, can we get a from you? Then we won't get canceled.
We'll be good.
All right,
Thumbs up.
dope.
Nice.
No, but I'm. This isn't even coming from me. This is something that is true. Is that there is a clear divide in the world, and right now it seems like it's political, but it's much deeper than politics.
Yes.
It's so much more deeper than politics. It is. There is an evil and a good. Like I think one thing that somebody actually came up to me whenever we were eating at the Delicious restaurant that were regulars out, right, Max? Somebody
Yes,
came up to me
yes.
and they asked me, like, who are these people? Who are these guys that you're with? You were you there whenever she came? No. That was
before he got there today.
Yeah.
This was today.
That was yes. This was before you
I
came.
thought you were talking to the person you were talking
No.
about.
Gaslight. Fake. Didn't happen.
No, it was a mother that had really impacted me whenever I was a young kid, and she'd always point me back to Christ. And she came up to me and she's like, and it's weird, I see her all the time. You ever see those people after high school? Anyway, we're not sidebarring. I don't want any more dashes on the board. But what
I
I'm
see
saying though
people
is,
from high school sometimes.
dude,
You're same.
No.
but she asked me, like, who are these guys here? Like, Max is sitting there, Aaron's sitting there, Badan's sitting there, JJ's sitting there, these other guys, I can't remember their names, but they were sitting there, and she asked me, who are these guys? And, like, the first thing that comes to mind is, like, they're my friends, they're my buddies, they're my guys. And then, the second thing is, like, how do you know them? And I said, well, we're a part of a community that are conservative and Christian. And I think that there is a real attack on I guess what I'm getting at is that I implore you, if you're listening to this, whoever it is that you find that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you said our guy, like, that rang true to me, and this new lingo. Granted, I'm a little bit older, but this our guy thing is sticking with me.
When we find our guy, we are so back. Imminent. It is imminent. We find our guy, and we
Literally
are so
based.
back once we do. He's
Like-
gonna be
like,
so
I
big.
You
can't-
understand this.
I can't.
Oh, wow.
I can't.
Look at Badan.
Real,
Switch to Badan.
so
Preston.
true.
Switch to
Face
Badan.
to
Look at his
face.
face. He's so mad.
I don't know, but
He
it goes
literally
back.
doesn't trust the plan.
It goes back to the times when I do call
So
Badan
bad.
and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like telling me all these things that he's got planned for the weekend. He's working on videos. He's taking a break right now. That's great. That's fine. I'm happy that he's up here. This is awesome. Epic. Can we say epic?
Right, like we all work. I think all of us work relatively hard. I told all you guys I'm starting my stories about my stories. What am I saying? I'm trying to figure out like a conservative activist sort of group thing at my church. Badan, you have like 10,000 projects you're doing. Sam, you have 10 million projects you're doing, and combined you're like each the age of 5. But but we all have these projects, right? But we're all, it's like nice to come together because we still have this brotherhood. And now we know, right? Like we all have these separate projects, but then we come together and we share the ideas. And like I listened to your conversation with Owen earlier today about the whole, like what you guys were talking about down here with podcasting, things like that, right? But brotherhood is exceptionally important. Well, and I'll say sisterhood too, because that's, you know, gotta cover them. But brotherhood is exceptionally important because if you don't know how many people are on your side, you're just going to give up. So make friends, but also do work. I kind of phrased that
so
wrong.
True.
But
so true.
Thanks, Dan.
I was wondering how long we were gonna go with people like talking at me before I finally had to say something. So to carry off of your final point there, men historically speaking have come together over a group task because we're going to complete something, we're going to do something, we're going to conquer something. Where we are now, for the most part, at least in the sub-community that we occupy, is all of these young, talented, intelligent kids. What are they doing?
Well, I think
They're playing Among Us, as previously
young.
stated.
Now let's not get into semantics of the of the titles that I have attributed to them. Point being, they are doing nonsense, right? They're playing video games. They're causing a ruckus in Discord servers. They're getting nothing done.
Right.
So I think that is a big focus of Sam, I know for sure, and I as well as many others, where we're trying to find a way to take all of these people, these kids, and direct them somehow, get them to do something, because frankly, they're doing nothing, and is a terrible, terrible thing.
Well, we don't really have that. Did you have that? Did you have any kind of, like, the only...
I don't know what you're asking.
Yeah, what are you?
I'm talking about, like, that active person. Like, here's the thing. What I remember whenever I was in, like, my early, you know, like, late, you know, 17, 18, 19-year days.
So, like,
is that
40
like
years ago?
Yeah, like... Where's the white flag? I need to wave that. No, what I'm saying is that, you know, who were the I was trying to think is who you know, and JJ, like, let me know if you have anyone, but who were those influential people whenever you were in your early 20s that really poured into you? Those guys who were saying, you know, where is, you know, what are you doing with your life?
Like your hero.
Not just your hero, but the hero that was front and center, who was in your face.
My hero is JJ.
So true.
Thank you, Owen. So I guess in my 20s, I would have been, in college. My heroes, I suppose around that time would have been I'd say, my mom was a, major influencer in my life. My grandmother as well, very, deeply religious. And probably I would say a couple of my professors that were particularly talented and passionate about their work, and also very keenly interested in making sure that we actually got what we needed to prepare ourselves for the real world. I didn't I wasn't on YouTube back in the golden age of YouTube, right? But I wasn't consuming media to find my heroes personally. I was it was interacting with people in person.
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting point to make, is that you've grown up in a different generation that a lot of the guys who are currently going through that are, and that's the big reason that so much of them need to default to whatever their online influence of choice is, right? Whatever the man is that they're looking up to on the internet, is because they don't have that masculine influence in their real life.
So I can say right now, over the past 6 months, I came across a lovely man named Scott. He's really cool. He's very strong with his business acumen, and he's the one who originally invited me to attend the men's group with him. And now we're talking every day now. We call each other at 6:30 in the morning, and we talk about the Bible. And I see him at his I see him at his business. Partake in what he's selling. I go to church with a friend of his, so that's how I found another church. But basically, the point I'm trying to get at is Scott is much older than I am, far more wise in many respects. Scott has become almost like a mentor to me now, and it's very very interesting. I've not had that type of situation before, just given my upbringing. But I would, yes, the real life relationships, like if you're looking for heroes and whatnot, it's not impossible that you'd be able to find somebody online, but for like that true deep personal relationship, those types of people who you're going to be able to look up to, I would really encourage you to look toward your immediate surroundings, someone that you can actually interact with in person. It's very, very strong.
Well, and I also want to say is that it took time too. It took a lot of time. Like, and I can't speak for you so much as I can speak for me, but it took, and I've shared this with Max too, how it took 8, 9, 10 something years to actually find a church. And it wasn't until I found a man that truly, and if you haven't met him before, is that watch the last episode, the Deacon Josh, right? Who truly showed me, Christ and his characteristics, IRL, right? In person, is somebody who always told me the truth, who always will tell me the truth, and I believe he will continue to tell me the truth, is somebody who will look at me and almost shake me sometimes with the words that he says, asking me questions that I had never thought to even ask or even think about, right? But it took time. It took me 8 years. I don't know how long do you know anyone else who has been more influential than Scott to you? Outside of your mother and grandmother?
I would, in recent years, I would say I'm not, probably no one. I would say that those 3 people have probably been, some of the biggest impact on my life. And yes, I would agree that it did take time. I didn't meet Scott until, maybe 6 to 9 months ago. I'm in my early 30s now. And, basically throughout my 20s, I was the person that my friend group looked to for, influence and guidance. And, particularly they called me the poster child of our group, given my, Christian morality that I adhered to. This is, many agnostics and atheists, and they sought me for maybe not the first layer of advice, but they would always seek me out for the final layer of advice because they'd tried everything else and that didn't work. So it will take time. You may not be able to find somebody like that around you, but it is worth the effort, I assure you. When you find that person, who actually, displays these good quality characteristics and genuinely wants the best for you, you'll know it when you see it.
Here, I'll put in my 2 cents here.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Griffin.
Nice to meet you, Griffin.
Thank you.
Happy to have you on the Sam Daly Show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to be here. No, growing up, for me at least, my dad was not a very religious person, and we did not agree on a lot of things. But I will say, with him being my dad, he did influence me and played a big part of my life. Now, obviously, my mom is a very religious person, and so I always went to church and everything like that. And growing up, I always knew, have this faint idea of what I want and what I'm looking for. But I guess I'm still looking, for that mentor, that main role.
So I listened to an episode of Real Talk Christian recently. And this is 2 separate, one is a youth pastor and the other one, he's involved in his church. I don't know how he's in some sort of pastoral position. So Real Talk Christian podcast, I'm sure plenty of you guys have listened to them, but they recently had an episode on discipleship. And I think the culmination of this whole conversation, maybe I shouldn't make such an arrogant statement, but I think
the only one describing it as arrogance, sir. Just finish your point.
I think the whole culmination of this can say become and make disciples, and not only in a religious sense, but also learn under someone, learn how to be a leader from them, learn how to be strong and powerful and a strong man. If you can't learn that from your father or mother, find someone else who you see and go learn under them, and then you go look for other people who haven't been able to learn from their mother or father and teach them, right? Once you have that knowledge to lead, and once you have that, and I know I don't have that knowledge to lead yet, and that's why I'd probably consider myself in sort of a discipleship kind of deal as of right now with some of you guys here, and that's but finding and making. I mean, you and I are the same age, so I don't know how. What do you think?
I mean, I certainly agree with that. I've got a lot of male influence in my life. Luckily, I think. Sadly, none of it is religious. At least in the real world. That's kind of why I'm here.
But are you at least learning, like, basically, in layman's, how to be a dude?
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah.
But
yes.
Seriously,
how to be a dude?
How to be a strong.
Dude. You gotta learn how to be a dude.
I mean,
exactly.
look at this.
Look,
Look at
you're
this. Give him a shot here.
We'll go
Give him a
with the
shot
right
here.
mindset.
Give him a shot here. Yeah, look at that. I don't even have half.
Yeah, but you're like 10 for 8.5.
All right.
The point is, strong males, and we need to make them through forms of discipleship.
Back to you, JJ.
I think basically I just wanted to follow up by saying the entire discussion about this lack of strong men. I think in the ideal scenario, we would all say that our hero is our dad because he taught us right and he was properly involved in our lives. He was a good Christian man.
Mine definitely is.
And I mean, just how many cases do we have of that dad not being there?
Well, I
Many
will say
such.
that's kind of where you see, I guess, frankly, people like us to really come into the fold. Is on a macro, it looks kind of silly that you have young men, very young men, in a lot of cases, kind of stepping up and inserting themselves into a kind of leadership position, a lot of which is online. Because if you're an older person, I think a lot of older people are very cynical about this, is just saying, okay, well, what do you know about like being a man? What do you know about masculinity? What do you know about taking on these leadership roles? But the point being is there is a giant gap to be filled, right? there's generationally speaking, there is a massive hole where there should have been male leaders there that there isn't.
To this room, perfect example. I forgot, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Right, so we have 30, 20. There's a 10-year gap in between there, right?
Well, and you can see too is I mean the baby boomers are, and we're not going to trash the baby boomers here. The point is that you will find that the baby boomers are very critical of the millennials. But the question you need to ask yourself is who raised the millennials? It's the baby boomers, right? So what we see is, and if you find you probably will not be able to find a mentor, as far as I know, in kind of that baby boomer area. A lot of Gen Xers are very good for that, but what you will see is a lot of the reason that these people exist, I guess, frankly, like someone like I exist, is because there is a gap to be filled. That's the same reason why any single person is on the internet, and there is a platform and a demand for these people is because a online person cannot really influence you as well as a real person. Like, why would I watch the video from an online mentor if I can talk to my real mentor? But a lot of people don't have a real life mentor, which is why they end up here. And it's a very interesting position for, I think, at least me to be in. Is a sort of I don't want to say like a complex where you're like why am I here, why am I doing this, but very simply, like, this is a position that a lot of people, a lot of my friends have been thrusted in because there's no one else to do it, right? And from our position, it's like, yeah, I can talk to a 16-year-old and give him some advice that he's not getting from anywhere else, and it's like kind of my job to do that now. Because this kid doesn't have that masculine figure in his life, maybe because his dad isn't present, his dad is completely absent, maybe he's just emotionally absent, but there is that gap there, and then someone needs to fill it, which is where a lot of us find ourselves. And the point, to wrap this all up, is it might look silly to someone looking from the outside. It's like, what does this kid know about any of these issues? It's like, well, you don't understand. This is not necessarily this is not a responsibility you're bearing because you want to. It's more like, this is just where you are, and this is what you have to do.
And just going off of that, I think as someone who doesn't have, like that mentor, feeling pushed into that position per se, I mean, I always look, to the people around me for guidance, but I also look eternally, follow my gut, but more importantly, probably the most important, is I always just go to the Bible and pray about it. I think that there are a lot of answers within the Bible that talks about how we should live, as men and as followers of Christ. And I think it's that simple.
I think there's every answer in the Bible, every answer for how we should live.
I mean, we talk about this lack of a father figure a lot, and where can we find one?
We have the Father.
So true. Go to the Father. JJ, I think we've discussed this before, have we not? You were finding difficulties finding a male role model in your life, so you turned to the Bible, and it helped you tremendously.
Yes, when I was in my early teens, my father was he was sort of around, but not exactly, for reasons I won't get into here. But when I was about 14 years old, I did just going through the church one day, I did recognize that yes, I would who I need a role model. I need someone to frame myself after, and the best example that I could find was Jesus himself. So I said, okay, that's who I want to. That is the aim by which I want to orient myself. That the most perfect possible man.
I'm trying to gather this together, and maybe I need some help with it. But it goes to the and I'm not taking it. I'm actually kind of transforming it. Is this the idea of the soft men make hard times, and hard times produce
Of course.
Strong men.
And strong men make easy times, and easy times makes
The
soft
cycle,
men,
yeah.
right? And I'm trying to see how that actually and maybe and it's likely that we won't ever really make sense of it all, right? But this idea of when the government starts to become large and becomes that father figure, that big brother, right, to take from the book, is that you see the church somewhat diminish, right? And I'm having trouble saying this, so anybody jump in, please.
You want me to jump in?
No, not yet. Let me.
Anybody jump in, please, except you.
Ah, okay. As you were saying, Sam.
But what I'm saying though is that I mean, I'm just historically, as you can see, the government, the first people that they go after is the young men, right? And so you see a government get as large as it's got to where it's at now. I don't think there is a government that has lasted any longer than 250 years, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Right. And so now where we're at right now is we see that the church is diminished. The church is, and so it kind of brings me to my testimony. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with sharing that right now, but there's a choice that was made for me whenever I was young and around 23 is either this direction or that direction. Is that I could either turn to my smartphone or I could turn to the Word. And I think that that's where we're at right now, is that a lot of young men in America right now got this choice in front of them, either that the same exact choice I was faced with is that they can either turn to their smartphone, which I think in some respects is the amount of information that is available, and the amount of I'd say wisdom. I think that wisdom it's more difficult to travel through a screen.
I think. But turn to your smartphone to be your guidance rather than turning to the Word to be your guidance. Is that?
Yes, yeah. I'd say that there's those two options, and I think that where we're at is the young men, we would hope that they would turn towards the Word as opposed to the flashy pictures on the phone. The entertainment industry and the media that sucks them in, and the academics of, becoming some professor and then going to college campuses to roast liberal. Anyway, you're raising your hand.
Going to the pride. I mean,
huh? Yeah, I think. I think what you're saying is. Am I good? I think what you're saying is true.
Hey, thanks for joining the show. Go ahead, say your name.
Owen.
All right, we got Owen here. Go ahead.
Pre-established.
I think that there is there's two layers of problems for addressing this issue with young men when it comes to their direction in life. I think the first issue is that a lot of people, a lot of young men, are not exposed to Christianity. I mean, we see social media companies. I mean, if you look at China's TikTok, it specifically censors things which it knows will strengthen America. And a lot of people are on these social media platforms like TikTok. A lot of people, through the designs of the enemy, are not exposed to Christian values. And I know that a lot of my peers who are struggling with things, when I would present them with, the gospel, like the very basic bare bones, they would go, wow, I have never heard this presented in this way before. And then I think that there's a second, more pervasive problem. It's a little bit harder for us to work around. That being, once you are exposed to the word, I mean, it's hard to be on the internet for any length of time and not be exposed to a myriad of viewpoints. And one of those is often the Christian viewpoint. I think our culture, especially young culture, there's such a element of pride there, where they are exposed to the Christian faith, and they're like, well, I'm too good for that. I have science, I have my smartphone that I can turn to, I have all of these things that I can adopt as a religion that are grounded in the world. And I think that we need to figure out a way to effectively message to these people who are looking for answers that the word is for them, even if they think that they are better than the word. And that's why I think figures like Badan, why figures like John Doyle have been so effective, is because they actually offer answers. They say, look, buddy, your life is not going the way you want it to. At least lend me an ear. At least try this. And I think that has been so far the most effective way to spread the gospel. I think we need much more of that, which is why, everybody here advocating for mentorship, I think that's important. We need to actually, get people interested in those answers and not just shout gospel at them.
Yeah, I think that a very perfect point to accent that is the one thing that will guarantee you mentorship more than anything else is being teachable. And I will say that being able to listen you will learn so many things if you're just willing to listen to the rant of an older person. I've had so many older men tell me so many interesting and cool things only because I was willing to just sit there and listen to them talk. And you will see a lot of these guys, frankly, they're very fed up with our generation and the generations around it, is because we're very arrogant, we're very full of ourselves, and we don't really want to sit there and listen. So when there's a young person that they can actually pour into, they will do so very willingly. So if you are looking for that real life mentorship, that's really the best way to do it, is there are those men around you somewhere, right? And when you run into them, take the time to actually listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, not to derail the conversation. I seem to have caught a case of the British from Max, but I'd like to point out to everybody here and in the audience that it appears that I have successfully gaslit Badan into thinking that I'm actually British.
Yeah, we needed to reveal this.
No, I'm actually from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
No, this is big. This is big. This is huge.
This is an orchestrated
Go ahead,
psyop.
switch it to Badan right now. Badan.
Shambles.
Badan, I want
Can we
you
get the live
to hear this
Badan
very
face cam
clearly.
reaction?
Number one, that's not transmission repair, Aaron.
Yeah, okay, I figured that. Oh no! Wait! Have I been gaslit the entire time?
I'm actually transmission repair Aaron.
I should have known that. I should have known that because I was yelling at you earlier and I said your name like 4 times and you never turned to look at me.
Exactly. I answered to the name Aaron 5 times in front of you today. Just.
Hold on.
I also told you several times.
The way that this needs to be noted right here is that, so Dan, we have gaslighted successfully. There was a few times also thinking that Nick was stranded at the house that we were at earlier today.
No, wait.
They got me on.
No, that's got nothing to do with that.
He wasn't there for that.
You weren't.
That
here
was
for
us gaslighting you, though. So Sam got gaslit too.
Yeah.
They
So
had the temper tantrum in the coffee shop.
sympathizing with. you.
I was sitting here and I was I just go with the flow because you kept referring to him as Aaron and I was like, okay, this is interesting.
Now switch the camera back to Badan. man. The man that you thought was from England, the one that you this whole entire day.
So I've been talking like this all day, right? And he's been asking me all these questions about England.
He
and I've
sounds
just
like
been
a
pulling
chimney
shit right
sweep,
out of my
for
arse.
reference.
Like,
He does not sound remotely English. This is not an English accent.
oh, this is not an English accent.
We're in absolute shambles.
It was absolute shambles.
What was the cover story?
Hold on,
You're
hold
from Exeter.
Oh yeah, so I'm from Exeter, right?
I don't.
And
It's. He's talking funny. I can't understand him.
I'm from Exeter, bro.
I don't know what
I'm
accent
Oh,
is.
no. And you study what
biochemical engineering.
Blimey.
Blimey. Bloody hell.
I'm pretty easy.
So
to
he's
cope
not
with.
he's not English.
No, not all.
I'm Tranny Repair Aaron.
That's not okay. Again. You were being
The
referred
real
to
psyop
Aaron
is
many
that I
times
am
in the show.
Badan this whole time.
Whoa.
And you are actually the English O.
This man's a
Blimey.
genius.
Bloody hell.
No. Okay, so let me tune into the audience here really quick. Is that I think that this was the very best part about the whole entire gaslighting, is just probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours ago, Badan looked at this man and said, "Your English accent is so good."
Your American accent.
I was
American accent.
complimenting him on his American accent. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he turns to me and he goes, "You know what would be really funny? if you pulled off an American accent for the entire show, and then at one point you just start talking like a Brit again. It's like, that would be hilarious. That would be literally insane."
Before,
and I was like, "Yeah, that's an excellent idea. It's marvelous."
To wrap
Splendid
things up,
even.
while I peek here, this came up on my phone. This is my Bible verse of the day from YouVersion. I think this really is good for the conversation we had. God ordained it. It's is it pronounced Colossians? Colossians, thank you. Colossians 3:2. Set your mind and keep focused habitually on the things above, not on the things that are on the earth, which I think is basically what we've been talking about this whole time, right?
No.
Maybe.
To an extent,
well, never
I
mind.
suppose.
All right, I
To an
really
extent,
thought that was
I'll give you
profound.
No, I agree with you because we're focused so much on like the red wave and what do we do? Oh no, woe is me, it's so over. But actually, it's not over because we can focus on the gospel, we can regroup, we can recenter, we can refocus our priorities based on, the gospel, finding guys in churches, getting together, getting the boys, right? And also finding mentors, getting involved in like local things. What can we do right here, right now? And like, we got a group of 7 guys here. We're just kind of throwing ideas around, brainstorming. We're not going to change the country overnight. It's got to start locally. You got to start small. Get involved in like local GOP meetings, whatever. Push the boomers out, get the boys in,
Based.
make some change.
We're so back.
I don't know who this guy is. I thought he was Aaron.
This is Aaron.
That's Nick.
That's
Okay.
Nick. Yes, yeah, and Nick is one of the guys here that we actually recently attended a GOP event, and it was just the day before the elections. And which one of you wants to explain?
Oh,
what
I'll narrate it. I love talking.
Because you're gone here soon, so like you can.
This is true. So the average age in the room was around 73. Absolute shambles. We would unironically, other than your good friend who we're hopefully going to have on the show next week, we were the youngest people in the room by a good 50 years. Not even a joke.
Well, maybe you.
And
I mean, they're like he's like 10 years.
Potato. But
Are you actually British?
Bruv, I've got the teeth and all, and the t-shirt.
I'd like to point out there was a psyop within a psyop because when I first showed up, I was told on the phone that Aaron was like taller than me, right?
I told you this.
And then when I was first introduced, we are like, "Oh, this is Aaron," and they were like, "What? I thought you're taller than me." Like, "Oh, it's just a psyop."
Yeah, that's
so it
why
was a psyop within a psyop.
I looked at you and I said, "Aaron's the tall guy. Aaron's the tall guy," and you went,
Yeah, and you kept trying to sell.
So we actually do have another psyop involving Max. He actually is British. However, we were lying about him not being gay. He actually is, in fact, gay.
"Okay."
confuse people so.
I'm a good sport. That was very. I am a good sport. I do like a good joke.
That's snorting.
That was very good.
So back to story time.
wait.
We thought it would be particularly hilarious if we could get him to do an American accent, but his American accent is wretched, atrocious. It's bullocks.
Okay.
Well,
But he goes at me. He
His
goes-
British accent's good enough to fool me, obviously.
But he goes at me.
Let him finish his story.
Thank you. So it was the night before elections, so you would suspect that the room was packed. It was tense. Everyone's edge of the seat, ready to go. They're ready to win, ready for the red wave. The actual case, a dozen cars in the parking lot.
We thought that there would be more. Like
yeah.
I remember parking specifically so that like my truck, which is says "Let's go Brandon
Christmas lights. Check us out on Facebook.
Yeah, check us out on Facebook.
This show is sponsored by Let's Go Brandon Christmas Lights.
Yes, I think I have to mention also it's my business whenever you actually sponsor your own.
Reel
thing,
it back in. Reel it back in.
I'm gonna reel it back in. Is that we thought there was going to be more people who are going to see the truck and we're gonna have contacts. Instead, we get in there and.
I could have settled that. I'm sure the people in the room were lovely people, well-intentioned, everything, but there was no energy there. They spent the night discussing GOP bylaws.
Playing bingo?
Almost.
At least bingo would have been productive. We spent 2 hours sitting and discussing, should we or should we not do anything tonight? That was literally the case. It was a disaster.
So what we need is we need young men to go to these meetings. Frankly, they need to do a little trolling, win over the boomers with love, get into these positions of power, because what they can do once they're in these positions of power within the GOP county meetings is that they can really put pressure on their local Republican candidates and senators, etc., to actually do something instead of just LARPing and behaving as a rhino.
And here's the biggest point here is that there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could count them on my hands and my toes how many people were there. Like if somebody's watching here, I'm trying to think right now because I'm willing to bet there's some people that maybe not know that many people. And so I guess big segue
some
here.
People that many may not know that many people.
You're crazy.
My
point is we need the fellas to go to these meetings.
There's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people. No, listen.
People exist.
Get your ass up and move. That's my thing. Look, if you're in a place where you don't know 10 other guys that you could go to a GOP meeting, get up and move.
And the
go somewhere where you can find guys who are fired up as you are. Not just in the church, but also politically.
And I guarantee you, it is not that far. You don't have to travel that far to find people. You don't.
And here's the kicker is that because
unless you're in California,
less than 20 people who were there is that you go and you show up with 10 of these guys. Like it's
suddenly you're the majority.
Like they're craving for you to go in there and help them with their direction for marketing. I know it. I saw it firsthand.
And unfortunately, this does mean to meet more people, you have to get off of Discord, stop playing Among Us, go outside.
That's true.
Preach, man who's been doing that for a week.
I know. I know.
So
the gub-gubs don't want to hear it, but it needs to be said.
Very true.
Do you think they're listening to us right now, the Among Us players?
I'm gonna have to go ahead and say a hard no.
I'm gonna
check the comments.
I just like to point out, Among Us bad. I mean, it's terrible. It's not a good game.
Unless it's done in IRL.
We literally played Among Us IRL last night.
Fake
and you
news.
loved it.
Okay, awesome.
I didn't win the first game in less than 50 seconds.
Listen, you really actually did a great job of wrapping things up here. Can you just?
That's what I do. I derail conversations and I close them.
It's short guys are always great at wrapping up conversations.
Stand up, please stand up.
No,
I don't want to. I don't feel comfortable standing up. Yeah, I'm just like I said.
Okay.
I'm the tallest person in the room, so I just go way up there.
All right, so listen up, folks. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I really appreciate everybody. Those of you who traveled here. I keep looking at Max. I don't know why.
Because I traveled kind of far to come to Kansas City.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yes.
But I appreciate Aaron swinging down here, making the drive, long haul. Dan.
Nick, where did he come from? The sewer.
I really appreciate you coming down and visiting. That was cool. That was appreciated. The guys on the couch came a long way too. Made plane flights. I don't know how you do it, but you made it. You made it happen the day before, right? Okay. JJ's making fluttering noise. So Oh yeah, that's right. And if you
What's
enjoy
up?
the show and you enjoyed sticking around here, and it's been a long day for me. I'm sure it's been a long day for you. You've been running around and stinky, or you've just been sitting on your ass this whole entire time, tuning into the show here and there, and also playing Line Wars or Among Us or something of that matter, is that you probably need something to wash with. You smell, this is Sam Daily Soap. Go to the website. We've got guys who write articles. Not only that, this right here is phenomenal. You know, it isn't, it's not scented, but if you keep smelling it, there starts to be a scent. And I assure you that
Smells like testosterone.
Well, see, since it's a white soap bar, I assume that it would like taste like coconut or something.
Yeah, try
Is
and
it
eat
coconut flavored?
You
What-
should
what
bite
happens
it.
if you
You
eat
should
it?
bite.
Can
you
we
should
get a
eat the
taste
soap.
test?
Don't eat the soap, but you should, but don't.
So could we finish what we were going to start on, which was Dr. Fauci? Sandman.
No, we
Nonsense.
can't.
While we see my pants, I'll stand up and show everyone my epic pants.
No, we're not going to do that. All right, so if
Preston,
you enjoyed this, be
Preston,
sure to like, subscribe, comment, and Preston will continue to keep the camera on me and not the guys who are standing up and out of their chairs. Again, Badan, thank you for coming. If you haven't checked out his channel, where can you find him?
You can find me at Badanlol, BADANLOL.com, or on Instagram and Twitter, and just Nathaniel Abbott on YouTube.
Okay, and then the Peanut Gallery, do you have any last words?
JJ, my beloved.
We love
JJ,
JJ.
my beloved.
Thanks for having us.
I'm gonna give this one to JJ.
Can we get a group J?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
JJ.
Go ahead and close it out. All right, great.
Dr. Fauci.